Good morning. It's very early morning here in Denmark, and this one has been sitting on my desk for a while. A while back, Baz wrote me an email asking if I could please do a rookie tutorial about ambushes, and yes, I can, Baz. Here you go. So this is my ambush rookie tutorial. Um, the basics first. Ambush is an order. You can put it on you can put your units on ambush just like you can give them a fire order or an advance order or whatever. The only thing you have to remember is if you're putting a unit on ambush, you have to declare which type of ammo you're using. This is only important with guns where you can use either AT or HE ammo. Um, but it can be important with those what you're doing. Some of us are trying to get little markers to place on our guns for that. So, so you give the order, you declare the ammo, and then you can only do direct shots. You can't do indirect shooting as you can with howitzers and mortars. They cannot go on ambush. It's only direct shots, and those shots may be triggered by any movement, any visible movement. May trigger your shots. So that is quite good because that will mean that the enemy is very limited in what they can do in front of you. However, once you do trigger it, you flip the order dice to a fire order or a down order depending on what your reaction is. The fire order would be what you're expecting to use, right? You're expecting to shoot at something going on in your line of sight. Um, and you may do that at any moment that you want to. You react when you want to, which is quite cool because that means that if your infantry is threatening to be overrun by Japanese fanatics with bamboo spears, then you can go on ambush, and as soon as they're within 6, you shoot them point blank. So you can use ambush to get better shots at units, which is really cool. Um, You can also use it to go down. So if anything shoots at you, you may react by going down instead of shooting back. Actually, you can't shoot back if it's just an enemy fire order. It has to be movement. So it's not even orders that trigger it. It's the actual movement, which also means that um, any sort of recce move or any sort of disembarkation from a transport, like emergency disembarkation, relocations after close combats, all of that is movement and can trigger ambushes. Um, but you may go down if someone attacks you, gives you get a fire order and they shoot at you. Um, or you may even convert your ambush order into an escape move if you have recce, which is very cool. So lots of options. Ambush is the one order that gives your unit the most options, actually. So how do I see it being used, like tactically? I see two types of ambushes. I see defensive ambushes. That is typically when a tank, for instance, is threatened by short-range anti-tank capabilities, a suicide anti-tank bomber, a Chinese suicide anti-tank bomber, a Japanese one, um, or maybe Panzerfausts moving up towards the tank. So the tank will go on ambush, or something else will to protect it. Or if an enemy push unit, an assault unit, something very threatening, is approaching your lines, you might also want to have stuff on ambush, um, just to give it a few pins or a few casualties before they charge you and kill you. Um, and you also see it used, and I use it quite a lot, against enemy outflankers. So the enemy declares outflankers, you know that they're going to come in. You don't know which side they're coming from, but you know they're going to come. So you have your backline assets go on ambush in anticipation that they will come on at some point. Um, so that when they do drive into the table, you at least have something to shoot them with, greet them with pins. So that's the defensive ambush types that I've seen tactically used. Then there's the board control, which can be used more offensively. Um, this is something that can be done with artillery and anti-tank guns, although I'm not a fan of anti-tank guns in general, just because they typically don't do very much, but they can do board control just like artillery can. What it does is it locks down lanes of fire. You put your gun on ambush and it can see that way. The enemy's not going to go that way, right? He's going to avoid that at all costs, which means that you can control the board, which can be very beneficial. You can sort of do the same um, in as an area control with machine guns on, for instance, tanks or like fixed machine guns as well, and rifles. And and what that does is that gives you 360-degree board control around that asset that you just put on ambush, unless it's a tank with forward-facing machine guns, right? Um, it will give you 360 board control. The enemy will be reluctant to move into that area, and that can be quite powerful because machine guns have a 36-inch range, so that is a lot of ambush range. Rifles 24, that is still pretty good. Um, so in that respect, machine guns and rifles going on ambush gives you really quite a lot of ball control. And then I see it used as a fire and maneuver element. So you will have several units, and one of them will go on ambush. The other units will move up, and you have that unit on ambush to prevent the enemy from counterattacking your attackers. Um, so sort of what real life soldiers will do. Some of them will lay down suppressing fire while the others move up. That is exactly what you're doing with your units here. You're using them in tandem so that you can move up more or less safely. So those are the board control elements of ambush. Now, there is also some shenanigans that is based on how the rules actually work in bold action. And one of them is that you can give units ambush even though they can't actually shoot. They may not even have weapons to shoot, but they can still get an ambush order. Um, which is a way to get around certain aspects of the game. So, for instance, transport units, trucks that haven't got a pintle-mounted MMG, they can still get an ambush order. If you don't want that truck to move, you're going to have to give it an order saying it moves this much and just shuffle it a little bit. Or if you want it to stay absolutely still, you can say, I go on ambush or I rally. You can give it those orders even though it can't actually perform the order, which is really, really cool. Um, it's even better if you have a recce vehicle. You can give it an ambush order. Even though it may not be able to shoot, you can still give it an ambush order because that will mean that if the enemy shoots at it, you can make an escape move. So that is a piece of order dice shenanigans that you can always use. Then, of course, there's the Finnish offensive ambush, which is very particular to the Finnish army. Their national special rule allows them to shoot at +1 from ambush, and they have units that can end their turn going on ambush when they have gotten an advance order. So what they do is they advance 6 inches towards you and go on ambush. And if you move, they will shoot you at +1. Um, so that is a really cool special rule, but it's locked down. It's only for the Finns. You don't get this special rule in any other army, although you get something a little bit similar with the Australians. Then we have the anti-recce ambush. Now, imagine this. You have a recce vehicle, an armored car that is bugging you. It's driven up, you can't really shoot it, and then this turn it starts messing with your lines. You want it gone, you want to kill it. The way to do that is you put one unit on ambush. You don't shoot at the recce vehicle, you put one unit that can kill it on ambush. A tank, an anti-tank gun, whatever. Put it on ambush, and then you shoot the armored car with something else. Now, the armored car is in an impossible situation because if it recce's, if it makes its escape move, then you can trigger your ambush whenever you want to. So it can't actually escape the first shot because you'll trigger the second shot. That is an impossible situation. If you have two assets that can hurt an armored car, you can absolutely kill that armored car. More or less guaranteed. You can at least get the shot, um, and it won't be able to recce away from that shot if you're on ambush. The same can be said for chargers, units that are coming in and charging you. If you are on ambush, it doesn't matter whether or not they're within 6 inches of you, the surprise assault range. Um, because if you're on ambush, you can shoot whenever you like. So the anti-assault ambush is also a thing where you put your units on ambush. The assaulters move up. If they do this, they're really dumb. Um, and then you shoot them at point blank range, +1 to hit. Then there's the forward deployment ambush, which is something that can be used by some units and some armies. Some armies have access to troops that can forward deploy units, not small teams. Units can forward deploy. And these forward deployers sometimes get the opportunity of starting the game on ambush. Um, so what you can see sometimes done is you have these forward deployers on ambush that actually, because they have board control from that ambush, have ball control right down to the enemy's back line. So you're denying the enemy the opportunity of actually moving assets into a certain area without being shot at. And that can be really, really annoying. Um, there's like a German selector that has what's called hedgerow ambush, where they get that. So they start on hidden and they start in ambush and they're forward deployed. So all your back line is basically threatened from the start. And that can be really, really strong. But it does need a certain army build, which may not be the best. And finally, we have snipers hunting team weapons. Again, this is a board control thing, but snipers on ambush will make sure that the enemy's small teams and team weapons will stay away. Because if they move into that bubble that your sniper creates, and remember, a sniper rifle is more than 24. If they move into that, you can immediately kill them. So that is very, very dangerous. So those are the shenanigans. So what do you do with an ambush order? Uh, Once you've put it there and you've set your ambush, what do you actually want to do with it? There are three possibilities. Let it be. If you get to the end of the turn and the reason why you put your unit on ambush is still there, let the ambush lie. Don't do anything with it. Don't pick it up. Just leave it till the next round. Because the reason that you wanted that ambush is still there. And if you pick it up, you might not get the first dice. You might not go on ambush first. So the enemy might get a chance to do something before you get to go on ambush. So leave it. Let it be. Then you can fire it. And you do that when the reason that you put it there is no longer an option for the enemy and you have a target. Um, And then of course, you roll the 4+. If you get that, then you can shoot at the target. That's always good. Um, This is what the Finns are hoping for all the time. They are not actually getting it all the time, but because they are advancing, they can sort of set this up better than we can. Um, so those would be the reasons to leave it and to fire it. And the final one is you can also just pick it up. And sometimes you need the order dice in the back because you really need that first order dice. So I will some in some games I will pick up an ambush even though there's nothing it can shoot at, and even though the reason I put it there might still be there. I will sometimes pick it up if I desperately need to get the first order dice for something else. Um, so that is, of course, something that you need to consider. So what do you do against an ambush? Well, Bass, against an ambush, there are three things that can work. Um, Indirect fire. Your indirect fire assets, if they are outside of the ambush's threat range, I would start shooting and shooting into that target, because over time you will get them to move. You will get that ambush cut out. They will need to leave the positions that they are in. So that is an easy fix. You can also give your units a fire order, because a fire order is not a move order. Then you're shooting without triggering the ambush. Um, so if you're in the open, the enemy goes on ambush, you might actually just want to shoot back. At least what will happen is you'll give them a pin, right? Um, if you hit them. So and if you have something that's outside the range of the ambush, that's a free shot, right? It's completely free because the enemy can't even react to you. Um, they can go down, of course, but then they've wasted their ambush, and that's also good by you. The final thing you can do is, if you have ambushes that don't have anti-tank capabilities, they haven't got any plus to penetration, then use your armor. Um, Push some armor into the ambush. If they want to shoot because you're maybe open top, then you get one pin. Do you care? No, you shoot back. So armor is an effective tool against this. Of course, it doesn't really work if it's artillery or anti-tank guns that you're driving up against, but against infantry on ambush, use your armor. They can't do anything to you that is bad. So that was my rookie tutorial on how to use ambush. Thank you so much for the question, Bass, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers.